Hello and welcome to lesson 42 of the Learning Guitar series. In the previous two lessons we started discussing major pentatonic and minor pentatonic, and in this particular lesson we're going to discuss a third family of pentatonics. In this case it's going to be dominant 7. Just to recap quickly, at least on paper, what we looked at in terms of intervals, we have seen that for major pentatonics we looked at a scale that had first, second, third, fifth, and sixth. While for minor pentatonic, we looked at a scale that had 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. In this case, for dominant 7, let's write it this way, dominant 7, we're going to be looking at something that has intervals as 1, 2, 3, 5, and flat 7. In other words, as you can see, it's pretty much the same as a major pentatonic, but we're using the flat 7 instead of a 6. And of course, this is a scale that applies to dominant 7 chords. Still a pentatonic scale, because it's a scale made of 5 notes. Let me give you an example. I'm gonna freeze G7. So, as you can see, what we're dealing here, the key of G will be 1, 2, 3, 5, flat 7. Here is the difference compared to a major pentatonic. For major pentatonic, we would have done this. For dominant 7, flat 7, and again, root note 1, 2, 3, 5, flat 7. And of course, it comes all sorts of shapes. And in fact, the PDF that I'm attaching to this particular lesson this week has our pentatonic, dominant pentatonic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, flat 7 in all keys. So here is the usual 5 shapes. The way you want to practice this scale is pretty much the same way you'll be practicing the minor shapes, the 5 shapes that we used for major and for minor. And so, you might want to look at the PDFs that I created of exercises for lesson 40 and 41. But in other words, as usual, you might want to take, let's loop this. You might want to take, a group of 2 notes, 3 notes. And of course do it for all 5 shapes. Say for example. Maybe a group of 4 notes. Maybe a group of 3 strings. Or maybe string skipping. Of course, for as much as, we want to play exercises, and yes, those exercises, group of 3, group of 2, group of 3, 3 strings, string skipping, etc. They're designed so that you create a muscle memory and a photographic memory of what the shapes look like, That's why you want to do it all across the guitar. Of course, also you want to spend sometimes just playing. So again, you might want to loop like a dominant 7 chord. Let's say in this case I'm going to loop D7 just for a change. For example, this is one pentatonic I can use. And as you can see, overall, this is quite, should be overall quite a simple addition to your vocabulary. So instead of having just your major and minor pentatonics, now you also have a pentatonic which is specific for dominant 7 chords. Of course, as we've seen, over a dominant 7 chord, we can also use major. In fact, let's have a look actually on how all the pentatonics now relate to our modes. So let's delete this for a second and let's quickly recap Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. Here is our 7 modes from a diatonic scale, and let's also remind ourselves of the numbers of this scale. So we know that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We know that Dorian is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. We know that the Phrygian scale is 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. We know that Lydian is 1, 2, 3. Then we have sharp 4, 5, 6, and 7. We know that Mixolydian is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Aeolian is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. And Locrian is 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, and flat 7. In terms of family of chords this scale worked with, we know that the Ionian is a major scale. We know that Dorian is a minor scale. Phrygian is also a minor scale. Lydian is a major. Here is dominant 7. Aeolian is a minor scale. And Locrian is half diminished. Okay? All these concepts should be familiar to you by now. We spent, almost 35, 40 lessons just discussing modes. And as you can see, there is a reason. So if you're not familiar with what I just wrote and why I wrote it that way, it means that you need to go back and do previous lessons before this one. Although, more likely you're going to be able definitely to use a dominant 7 pentatonic over a dominant chord even without. But in order to frame it harmonically even better and, build on it, make sure that you've done all the lessons of modes too. So, if we look at from the point of view, pentatonics that we can use, if you remember, a major pentatonic is 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. As such, if you look here, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, I can apply it to Ionian. So let's write here major pentatonic. So I can apply it to a chord number 1. I also can apply it, if you look here, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. Also over Lydian, I can apply the same major pentatonic without changing a note. And in a way, if you look at Mixolydian, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, I can also apply it here. When it comes to Dorian, now we have a minor pentatonic. And we know that a minor pentatonic is 1, flat 3, 4, 5, and flat 7. And as such, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, and 7, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, means that instead of Dorian, I can use a minor pentatonic. Phrygian, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. Again, I can still use a minor pentatonic. Aeolian, 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. Okay, I can still use the same minor pentatonic. As you can see here, it's not going to work because of the flat 5 instead of the 5. So we still have one slot missing, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. But now we've done also like dominant 7 pentatonics. And we say that dominant 7 pentatonic is 1, 2, 3, 5, flat 7. And as such, if you look at Mixolydian now, we have 1, 2, 3, 5, flat 7. So we can also use a dominant pentatonic. And as a matter of fact, in a way, the dominant 7 pentatonic is going to work, it's going to have even a stronger flavor because of the presence of a flat 7. As I said, in the major pentatonic, we have a 6. And in the dominant 7 pentatonic, instead of a 6, we have a flat 7. And that's where it lies, the main difference lies. Now, in order to understand the Locrian, we have to look back 1 second at our chart. What I want you to pay particular attention with, let's look at this shape, but you can, the same piece of theory would apply to all of them, okay? If we start from the third and you look at these particular intervals, the third, fifth, flat 7, 2, okay? 3, 5, flat 7, 2. You can see here, actually, a minor 7, flat 5, semi-diminished arpeggio. In other words, what we're getting through is the half-diminished arpeggio is actually included in the dominant 7 pentatonic if we start from the third note. Okay? So, let's say if this is G dominant 7 pentatonic, this is also B. We can apply it, the same scale exactly as you look, to a B half diminished, so to a B Locrian. To wanted to make it so for this chord, I can still use G. So in other words, to cover the Locrian with a pentatonic, what we're going to do, say if it was B minor 7 flat 5, okay? We're going to go down 2 tones and play the dominant 7 pentatonic starting, from, which is taking the name from this chord, in this case is G. E half diminished is going to be C7. So, if we look at our modal approach to pentatonics, now we know that for Locrian, what we need to do, we need to go down 2 tones and play a dominant pentatonic. So, dominant pentatonic down 2 tones. It is written very, very small. Let's put it this way. Dominant. Down 2 tones. And that will cover Locrian, okay? This way we're basically covering all the diatonic modes by using pentatonics. So for example, let's take, since we're discussing G7 means that we're looking into C major, C Ionian. So for C Ionian, I can use major pentatonic. Now, the second chord in the diatonic progression, if C is number 1, now we will have D minor. And I can use minor pentatonic. Next is E minor. And I can use E minor pentatonic. right? Next is F major. And I can use F major pentatonic. Then I have G7, and I can use, we say, dominant. Then I have A minor, and I can use A minor pentatonic. Then I have B half diminished, and as we said, B half diminished. Let's go 2 tone down. I find myself in G. I'm going to use G dominant pentatonic. And I'm back to C, which means any degree, for when we've done the modes, we've done we've done 7 scales, as we've seen with different intervals. In this case, with 3 pentatonic scales, major, minor, and dominant 7, I can cover all 7 modes. You might wonder, what's the point of that? The point of that, as usual, is when you're trying to devise a guitar solo, you always want to have into focus where it's resolving. Whatever chord progression, what's the resolution point? And even if you're not too familiar with harmony and theory, in a way, where the song is resolving is something that you can even figure out by ear. In a way, it's the last chord of the song. It's something where the song finds itself at rest. So, for example, if I have a progression that goes, D minor, E minor, and that's the entire progression. It doesn't feel like it wants to resolve here, but it rather wants to resolve on the first chord, so D minor. And it feels like it's resting here. So since it's resting over a minor chord, D minor in this case, of course, if you know a bit of harmony and theory, you already spotted that D minor, E minor is diatonic, is basically to the key of C, so we're in the key of C. But I'm not going to think of this progression as a C Ionian. The song resolves over chord number 2. And chord number 2 is minor. I'm going to use minor pentatonic. We'll just see in a second. D minor pentatonic. Let's change progression. So let's say, for example, I have D major, A major, B minor, G. So again, if you know a little bit of theory, and again, have a look at lesson 16, and there is a few charts there, and I actually use the same charts in other lessons. Where, for those lessons where you're trying to figure out what the key of song is. In this case, D, A, B minor, G, it's all in the key of D major. So this is chord number 1, chord number 5, chord number 6, chord number 4. So I'm going to resolve all this for D major pentatonic. I mean, that's where the song wants to resolve, as you can hear. It doesn't want to finish here, it wants to finish here. And that's where the tune resolves. So I'm going to use D major as a reference. And in fact, if I use D major pentatonic, does it make sense? let's try another progression. I could literally almost go random if I wanted to, but just for the sake of keeping it as academic as possible in a way. Let's see a progression that goes 4, 5, 6. Let's see, 4, 5, 6. Let's do it. I don't know, whatever key. Let's see, B, chord number 4. C sharp dominant 7, chord number 5. And I have E flat minor, chord number 6. If E flat minor is chord number 6, chord number 1, although it's not in the progression and the song wants to resolve into chord number 6, chord number 1 will be F sharp or G flat major. But as we said, the progression is kind of resolving into chord number 6 if you listen. And it's at rest. So we're going to use E flat minor pentatonic. Let's see if it works on all the progression. As you can see, it works. Probably one of this time I should write a bunch of chord sequences and as a quiz ask you to find out, what the main key, if they are diatonic, what the main key is, and eventually where do they resolve. But in the meanwhile, studying the dominant 7 pentatonics, one of the places where obviously you can definitely use them in the chord progression will be the blues, as always, because I can have D pentatonic, A pentatonic, E, So the blues, because it, is made up of 3 dominant 7 chords. In this case, the key of A was A7, and I was using A dominant 7 pentatonic. And then for D7, I was using D dominant 7 pentatonic, and for E7, I was using E dominant 7 pentatonics. So I was changing 3 scales, each one for each chord. So practice your dominant 7 pentatonics. In the next lesson, we're going to look at how we can move a minor pentatonic in order to achieve also the extensions that we studied when we did the modes. So not just, the triad and extended triad, but we'll look at how via minor pentatonic I can say, for example, access 9 sounds, 13 sounds, 11 sounds by displacing them. Anyway, I don't want to confuse your head. download the PDF. As usual, if you have any question, just feel free to leave it in the comment section if something is not clear. And as usual, if you want to support this project, you can do so by joining my Patreon. It would be very much appreciated to keep this project going. And well, spring hopefully is here wherever you are. And it's been a pleasure, and until next time, bye.